Ever wonder what aliens might look like if we did encounter them? While you might think that this is unknowable, and to some extent that is correct, there is a notion called convergent evolution that at least gives us some indications. The general idea here comes from the fact that various life forms have independently evolved a lot of the same basic features on Earth, completely separate from each other. And given that many other planets would have relatively similar conditions as Earth in terms of some level of light, gravitational force, and living creatures needing to intake sustenance for energy, etc., it is likely that an intelligent and advanced species would have certain broad features we can make assumptions about. As Professor Harry E. Keller of Northeastern University notes, eyes? Of course. You'd have to see to be able to build a civilization. The squid has better eyes than we do, and the eye seems to have evolved separately a few times at least. Our alien will have eyes that may only resemble ours superficially. A lens and iris are almost an absolute requirement. The whites do not have to be white. Neither does the iris have to be colored in anything like the way ours are. How many eyes? One just will not do. Inability to perceive distance will lead to rapid extinction. Unless you can find a good reason for it, extra eyes create evolutionary baggage and will not persist, spiders notwithstanding. Eyes being important, they will be recessed and capable of being covered as necessary. Our aliens are not likely to be bug-eyed, though we cannot totally rule that out. Mouth must have means for ingestion of food. All large animals have some means to capture and swallow food. Some masticate it, others do not. Teeth are rather common on Earth, but other systems of eating are possible. The problem is that plants and animals have been in an evolutionary war for millennia. We inherit the outcome of that war. Teeth were necessary to eat plants that became more fibrous, an evolutionary reaction to being eaten. There are other ways to shear off plant food, such as what birds do. They chew in their gizzards. A similar line of thinking is that a technologically advanced species is likely to have a good way to manipulate objects in complex ways, as this is a huge boon to an advancement of a species in the first place. Thus, something like hands and opposable thumbs would also seem to be more likely to be present in a spacefaring life form that we might encounter. Some sort of hard protective structure to store the central processing unit, or units, i.e. the brain or brain centers, are also speculated to be likely for similar reasons to so many creatures on Earth evolving this feature. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Conway Morris adds, certainly it's not the case that every Earth-like planet will have life, let alone humanoids. But if you want a sophisticated plant, it will look awfully like a flower. If you want to fly, there's only a few ways you can do that. If you want to swim like a shark, there's only a few ways you can do that. If you want to invent warm-bloodedness like birds and mammals, there's only a few ways to do that. There is a growing interest in convergent evolution, but I'm always willing to push it as far as I can. I'll always say, show me anything which has only evolved once, and I'll try and jump up and say, no, I can give you another example. Convergence is ubiquitous, and if you think complex things are difficult to make, well, with great respect, think again. The sum of all this is to point out that while Hollywood often depicts humanoid-like intelligent beings for convenience in casting actors and reducing special effects budgets, it's not outside the realm of possibility that aliens really would be at least slightly humanoid, with some form of eyes, ears, hands, limbs for moving about and grabbing things, etc. Of course, having all these features doesn't necessarily mean looking that close to a human. After all, an octopus is not that far from the basic recipe for a species with the potential to be technologically advanced if they evolved the right means for communication and things of this nature. But it, at least according to this hypothesis, makes it not unlikely that we might encounter aliens at some point that look not too dissimilar to ourselves or something that we're familiar with. That said, Seth Shostak and Susan Schneider of the SETI Institute posit that it is far more likely that any other beings we encounter would be of the machine variety. Their reasoning is that, to begin with, as any species advances to the point of space travel or sending communications across vast distances in space, thus ones we are more likely to encounter, they will likely have come up with something like the computers we have today to offload various brainpower tasks to machinery. Ultimately, they will then advance those systems to the point where they are superior to the biological brain's potential. At some point beyond that, they will likely figure out how to transfer their own sentience and memories to the machines, or create machines that are themselves independently sentient. Because such machine beings would be superior to biological beings in countless ways, including ability to rapidly self-improve and replicate in much more advanced ways, they would ultimately come to dominate. Even in societies that took active steps to avoid this, these groups would have much more trouble with interstellar space travel than their machine alternates, and thus it would ultimately be unlikely for us to encounter those biologicals compared to our chances of encountering the machines. On that note, grey aliens are often described by supposed abductees as having seemingly artificially smooth skin, like it's made of some sort of polymer rather than being biological. This, combined with the fact that many abductees state that even when the greys were staring them straight in the eyes inches away from their faces, they could not detect any breathing or the like, has led some to speculate the greys are not actually biological beings, but rather robots, clearly created by the lizard people to do their bidding. And let's get into those bonus facts. While today pretty much everyone pronounces UFO as UFO, it turns out that's not the way the person who suggested the phrase unidentified flying object, one Edward J. Ruppelt, pronounced it. You see, when Ruppelt suggested the name to describe these types of sightings rather than flying saucer as was previously popular among the general public, he helpfully included a description of how to pronounce it. So how did he say it? Well, that was UFO. And while UFO did catch on, UFO certainly didn't.